So actually, I want to pause here for a minute, if we may. So how many in the audience are actually running smartphones, non-BlackBerry smartphones, on their networks? Okay, they're out there. How many of you, before you went that, let's forget about the security for a minute, because we're going to be talking about that shortly. How many of you consulted with legal counsel in your company first to think about the e-discovery and other type of ramifications and compliance needs? And a lot less. I would expect you, Ed. Thanks. So I think that's, the old adage is the first time something, you meet your FBI rep, right, or the Department of Justice, doesn't want to be when it hits the fan, right? You want to introduce yourself to them and know the risks and understand the problems beforehand. So I think legal, is that what we're saying here, Howard, is that legal needs to be involved right from the beginning, and Mike was definitely saying the same thing. So why don't we move on? Eric?
Well, thank you. I guess at least 2 or 3 years ago, we started seeing the mesh of the financial and telecommunication industries intersecting, and it was all through the mobile platform. And a lot of it started with small to rural areas that had federal credit unions, banks that had a less than sophisticated customer base that were getting either smishing or vishing attacks. And the money was either being taken either through voice or through voice into text, which then was made into a credit card. It was then money was taken ATMs, or ACH, automated clearinghouse transfers, or EFT wire transfers. So we started seeing that. In combination with that, I actually got emails from my bank, which was a bank based in Texas, and they were offering this ability to take a picture of my check and deposit it in there. And I thought, oh, this is terrific. So about 2.5 years ago, I started reaching out to the telecommunications sector through an association called the CFCA, and actually brought up a lot of these issues. And a lot of the investigators weren't even aware of some of the things that were being offered by the banks because there was no overlap. There was no ability for the two sectors to talk to each other. So the FBI and my unit in particular, which is part of the cyber division, were created in 2006 to kind of be a proactive arm of the FBI. Traditionally, over the 100+ years the FBI has been around, it's always been a reactive in nature, whether it's bank robberies, kidnappings, extortion. But in cyber, we wanted to get proactive. So we've done a lot of outreach to a lot of different industry sectors. It gives us a 10,000-foot view of cyber crime in general. And we're not specifically focused, even though my unit's based in Pittsburgh, we're not focused just in Pittsburgh. It's national and international in nature. We've developed a lot of great relationships with our law enforcement partners overseas. From 2006 to 2008, we actually ran a site called Dark Market, which was a cyber underground. And we were able to glean a ton of intelligence. Any new product that was going on out there, whether it was the iPhone or some other kind of new smartphone, these guys were writing white papers and putting it up on there so they can hack into it or break it, jailbreak it to put their service or whatever they want to do with it. So it's not surprising that today you see the Zeus and other traditional banking Trojans going and now actually stealing credentials that would log into your telecommunications site, your cable, and internet. So that's a big issue. We're also seeing a lot of fraud as it relates to call forwarding, where your home phone number, let me take a step back. Your home computer's compromised through some sort of keylogger of some sort. They get into your telecommunication website. You go and you. Sorry. So you go in and you go in actually to. They log into your telecommunications site. They call forward your home phone to a prepaid cell phone. And then they go out and steal whatever pot of money you have, whether it's a banking Trojan or a bank or an equity fund, brokerage fund, a HELOC. We're seeing a lot of home equity loan, line of credit fraud. So we're seeing that crossover as well. I'm not knocking the advances that technology brings and the innovation, but there's never. It doesn't seem like there's a lot of security thought put into it, and that's where the legal department needs to be brought in when it comes to those things. So we're definitely getting proactive. My unit in particular is hosting. There's going to be at least 6 countries coming into our facility for about a 90-day period. We're going to see what kind of damage we can cause by working together in that environment. So it's great. We're always looking for new contacts in industry to learn about what the threats are and to educate the field, because the field office agents around the country don't really have the time or effort or ability to actually do a lot of outreach locally as best they can because they have a lot of admin duties, they got their casework. And so we were stood up specifically to go out and find out what the problems are out there.
So thank you very much, gentlemen. So moving from there, one of the things you hit on was the industry organization and some of the stuff that you're doing. So I think it'd be interesting to hear from the audience a little bit, which is why I was gesticulating to Jess to come and grab a microphone. For those of you who, I think it would be good to learn from everybody when it comes to mobile threats, how you're sort of learning about them, where people are searching for these problems. And certainly everyone knows that the train has left the station as far as the devices go, and everyone knows we're trying to protect against threats. So where are people looking for threats? And Jessica, do you, Mike? Right over here. Hang on one second, sorry. Oh, okay, well, tough.
Because my question's actually a bit of a non sequitur. It actually goes back to before you introduced Eric. You asked everyone in the audience how many of you have deployed smartphones on your network other than BlackBerry, and I'm wondering about the proviso on BlackBerry. Why did you say that? I know historically about BlackBerry and whatnot, but I think that that's an interesting comment on how people view the whole market and the whole threat landscape, and is BlackBerry right or wrong to be excluded?
The comment was simply because I would guess that 90% of the people in the room already have deployed BlackBerry. It has nothing to do with any other piece of it. Most people have the BES.
Supposition in the market often is that's the gold standard of security and everything else is
And I agree with that, but that wasn't implicit in my statement. My statement was simple. It's like, asking people if they're using pencils. In this case, most people on enterprises have been using BlackBerry for a certain amount of time, and that's why. But you're correct. I mean, people do see it as the gold standard. Although.
But then my question is.
It's definitely the panel, not the me.
Okay. But the panel in general is, do you think that's still fair, or is BlackBerry something that folks have to be paying attention to as well? I think there's a perception that you have to, from an enterprise perspective, at least manage BlackBerry devices, but from a security standpoint, they're fine. I'm wondering if that's still accurate, 10 years later.
I don't want to go down that route.
All right, and I don't want to.
I know the president's got one, so I don't know.
Well, that's not your mother's BlackBerry.
For example, I was mentioning to Eric at lunch today that the Justice Department is experimenting with iPhones on our network. And part of this has been, for 5-10 years now, we've been using BlackBerries. But the department, in an interesting experiment, is going to try a different device in the belief that, yes, we can mirror the same kind of security. The concern that I have is that, I've been trained for the last 10 years on how to use a BlackBerry, and I know what documents and what access to our network I can get with a BlackBerry. Having a smartphone that can interact, for example, with cloud data that a corporation or government organization may have presents a real interesting concern, is that everybody likes BlackBerry because of email and phone. I don't think anybody thinks that they particularly have a good web browser. But if we were to adapt other devices that have better web browsing, in my opinion, that makes a broad variety of information that may be in the cloud and may be available through allegedly secure mechanisms through a handheld device. That presents a whole interesting new challenge that I don't think we're particularly well prepared to handle right now.
So what are some people's reasons? I mean, anyone want to sort of pipe up as to reasons why you're looking at other devices other than BlackBerry? I mean, why did you move to the iPhone or the Android or Windows Mobile? And or are you all using BlackBerry? And are you keeping the BlackBerries? Are you transitioning out? It'd be just interesting to see anybody who's doing this has any comment on this. Nobody?